reading of the declaration, the Republic of Senegal, who are the presidency of the African Union, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the presidency of COP27, the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, who are guests to this interministerial conference, and the Republic of Zambia, who are chair of the African Group of Negotiators. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause.
Who's
Great performers. Your Excellencies, may I request the delegates to each hold one folder for members of the press. We will all hold one folder and have it to show in front of the press and of course in front of the principals who are here today to show your commitment to this declaration. So Lucy, if we could have each of the delegates have a folder. More, just one more. In front of the table, in fact. All right, so with your indulgence, our delegates will request that we will find a way. The press is on either side. So my suggestion, let's move to the front of the table. Lucy, if we could have our delegates move to the front of the table because the table becomes a distraction. And members of the press, this is your moment. I only have a minute before I invite the minister who will invite their excellencies to speak to us. So delegates, members of the press, find the perfect position because we must pronounce the great news of the Kampala Declaration, the Kampala Ministerial Declaration on Migration, Environment and Climate Change. Thank you very much, heads of delegation. Thank you so much. I now will take the pleasure of inviting the Honorable Minister, Sam Chaptoris, to invite the excellencies to speak to us. You're welcome, Honorable.
I want to thank the ministers for signing the declaration. Your Excellencies, it is now time for our principals to address us. And I want to take this opportunity to invite His Excellency the President to chair the next session. Thank you very much.
His Excellency President Salva Kiir Mayardit, President of the Republic of South Sudan, the Honorable Ministers, and all the other delegates, it is now my honor. I want to congratulate you on signing the declaration. And it's now my honor to invite His Excellency General Salva Kiir to address you. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers and delegations that have come to this conference, distinguished senior officials of the pre-COP27 Secretariat, representatives of the East African Community, EAC, the Intergovernmental Authority and Development, IGAD, and Horn of Africa, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to convey my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to His Excellency and brother, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the warm reception and generosity he accorded to us, the attendees of this summit. This conference came at a critical time for our region. It came at a time when we are facing varied climate-induced disasters, such as floods, droughts, and landslides. These disasters affect our respective countries differently. Despite their different forms, recent studies have shown that we need to do one thing: adapt. And adaptation means devoting resources to building resilient communities. Your Excellencies, South Sudan has submitted its nationally determined contribution along with its first national adaptation plan to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. What is contained in these climate action documents can only be realized with the help of climate finance from the developed countries. This call for the developed world to provide resources for the climate adaptation was reaffirmed in the Paris Agreement. It is also justified by the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities in the same agreement. Despite the urgency of climate change, we are yet to receive 100 billion United States dollars pledged by the developed world to the developing world in 2020. While this amount is below the target, we have not received it, and we only hear that 2023 is the time it will be raised. By then, it may be too late. I have a young daughter who spoke here before, representing women and the youth. I want to assure her that South Sudan has given 35% to women in the current government. The woman is the Speaker of our National Assembly for the first time, and a woman is the Minister of Defense. So other ministers like whom you have seen here, the Minister of Environment, which we are talking about, is also a woman. As countries, we have contributed less to the emission of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, and the ones bearing the brunt of climate-induced disasters. We need to unite and call upon the developed world to meet its commitment to fund climate adaptation immediately. We cannot cope with the climate-induced disasters indefinitely. Big polluters in the world must live up to their commitments and avail the resources. Currently, over 60% of our people in South Sudan are categorized as food insecure and in need of life-saving intervention. From the climate-induced displacement, mainly flooding, the Republic of South Sudan has been struggling with record floods for the last 2 years. The floods have already destroyed many communities in the low-lying areas. In 6 out of the 10 states. In these areas, people's lives have been altered by internal displacement of over 1 million persons, along with destruction of livestock, wildlife, and crops. These floods induce losses, if not tackled urgently, can lead to increased irregular migration that can affect countries beyond our borders. Another issue of concern to us is deforestation. This is really critical because 99.9% of our population depends on forests as the sole source of energy. To us, a quick transition to clean and renewable energy will alleviate the resources on our forests. In our plan to save our forests, we target to generate 3,000 megawatts of power from hydro, solar, wind, geothermal, and natural gas. Achieving this goal requires financial support, capacity building, and technology transfer. All of which depend on climate finance. To effectively address climate change threat to our region and the world at large, South Sudan would like to 1. Underscore the importance of adaptation. Our region needs a balance between mitigation and adaptation, where 50% of the climate funds be earmarked for adaptation projects. 2. Stress that the $100 billion that was arbitrarily set is no longer sufficient. This amount needs to be raised upwards. Save it. Number 4. Yes. 3. Appeal to all parties that have not submitted their national determined contributions to do so urgently to allow us to keep the 1.5 degrees goal alive. In closing, I would like to affirm South Sudan's commitment to Kampala Declaration of the ministers responsible for environment, migration, and foreign affairs of the government of the member states of IGAD and the East African Community. We will stand by what is agreed in this declaration on its entirety. Let us all go to Sharm el-Sheikh in November, speaking with one voice of this declaration. We have no other choice than to adapt to the changing climate. With faith in humanity, I have that the developed world will live to its commitment and avail the needed resources for this important task. Thank you very much.
Pick of the day on UBC.
If I'm looking at issues of taxation and all that, I will definitely run for the Kateshumbas. Okay?
Okay.
If I look at, if I'm looking at issues of investments and what, I would definitely run. I would definitely run for Dr. Emure Kugonza and Honorable Omara. Okay. If I'm looking at issues of the law, I will run for our very, very own people. I have the Oboso Bosses, I have the Katuntus, I have the Robin Arwakojos. So everyone is talented in one way or another.
Did you mention Katuntu?
Okay? Yes.
Is he yours? On UBC, the program that helps you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and enterprises.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
A World Cup in the desert, the first one in the Middle East, the first to be held at the end of the year. That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
Oh, Susan, I want to propose to Rose. Yes, and this time I am serious.
Have you guys had sex?
Duh, of course.
And have you had sex without using condoms?
Hey, Nga, you're curious.
I'm more concerned. Are you having sex with other people?
Hey, hello, is this an interview or what?
No, just things you should think about. Do you know Rose's HIV status?
Okay, this is serious. Should I be worried?
It is actually serious. Do you know your HIV status?
I think I am safe. Many times we get into situations that put us at risk of HIV. However, the first step to ending HIV is getting tested and knowing your results.
It's Time Up HIV. Call 0800-211-046 or text 8080 toll-free for more information about how to prevent HIV.
This message is brought to you by Ministry of Health with support from USAID.
But also deals with the issue of power, so that people stop cutting trees. I thank His Excellency so much for his coming and for his speech. I'm pleased to welcome you to the high-level Interministerial Conference on Migration, Environment and Climate Change. Under the theme of this conference is to develop an integrated approach to addressing climate change-induced mobility across the African region. I commend our esteemed partners, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change for choosing Uganda as host of this important conference. The government of Uganda is committed to ensuring sustainable use of the environment and the natural resources. For us, environment and natural resources are at the core of sustainable development and critical for socio-economic development and transformation, healthy ecosystems, and human survival. Therefore, the issues concerning migration, environment, and climate change are not new to us in Uganda. Our people the majority of whom are already vulnerable and have limited capacity to adapt to the impacts of climate change, have continued. About 3,000 people from Mount Elgon sub-region, Bududa district in eastern Uganda, Chiriandongo district in western Uganda, after their home villages were devastated by the landslides on March 1st, 2010, caused by the climate change-related disasters. Your Excellencies, the scientists have been continuously warning us on the need for enhanced and collaborative action to combat climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, an international scientific body on climate change in 2022, published its 6th assessment report. The report concluded that climate change has reduced food and water security, hindering efforts to meet sustainable development goals. In Africa, flood and drought-related acute food insecurity and malnutrition have increased due to climate change. Climate change is contributing to humanitarian crises. Climate-related hazards such as floods, as you heard His Excellency Salva Kiir telling you. South Sudan is a country which is flat in many areas, and you hear what he was telling you. Droughts, like what is going on now in some parts of the Horn of Africa, even parts of Uganda. Landslides impact the already vulnerable communities, increasingly driving displacement, insecurity, conflicts, and involuntary migration of people in all regions of the world. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, an annual average of 21.5 million people has been forcefully displaced by weather-related events such as floods, storms, wildfires, and extreme temperatures. These extreme temperatures recently have been cooking the Europeans. The Europeans have also been cooked now this time. London, the temperature has got 41 degrees centigrade. Different parts of the United States, Spain, all those places, people have been suffering with a lot of wildfires and so on. As we are all aware, East Africa, here in Uganda, we have never had 41 degrees. Not even 35. Here in Kampala, we have never had those temperatures. Karamoja may be 35. But 41 degrees centigrade, you could see people fainting in Europe and the United States. So people who don't listen, they cause a lot of problems for everybody, including themselves. As we are all aware, East Africa and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and many African countries rely heavily on natural resources. The changing climate and weather conditions are putting our economies, our communities, agriculture, health, water supply, hydropower production, road infrastructure, and housing at more risk and making us more vulnerable. We cannot afford to take no action. In collaboration with our highly esteemed partners, such as the Nationally Determined Contribution Partnerships, most of our countries have updated their national climate action plans, also known as Nationally Determined Contributions, NDCs. As African countries, we reaffirm our commitment to the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Africa Agenda 2063. Generally, for African countries, climate change adaptation is key in addressing the impacts of climate change at all levels, including addressing loss and damage and increasing the resilience of communities, infrastructure, and ecosystems. This is consistent with the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan 2022 to 2032 that aims at building the resilience of African communities, ecosystems, and economies, and supporting regional adaptation. No country can address the challenge of climate change alone. We must work together to increase adaptive capacities while minimizing the negative impacts of climate-related displacements and involuntary migration. I appeal to you to take advantage of this opportunity to further discussions on climate change and human mobility, to inform the upcoming 27th United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP27, that is scheduled to take place in Egypt later this year. The commitment we have made today is our first landmark, strengthening our cooperation in relation to climate change-induced human mobility, including migration, displacement, and planned relocation. The outcome of this conference is to bring the issue of migration, environment, and climate change to the mainstream national and international forums, especially in the climate change negotiations during the 27th United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP27. Here in Uganda, we can give testimony to the dangers of mismanaging the environment. There is the global mismanagement of the environment by those who are emitting greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, which is a very good gas, because carbon dioxide is a good gas if it is used properly. You remember, carbon dioxide is captured by plants, and the plants use it to manufacture food for us. So the issue is not just carbon dioxide, it is the misuse, the greed. Greed is the biggest problem. Greed of people who are looking for money in a quick way. Otherwise, carbon dioxide is used by plants, as you know, through photosynthesis to manufacture food. All life has got carbon in it. But those people who are greedy for money have caused this problem of increasing those greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So these are the ones we are telling you must stop. And we should insist on that, so that the globe does not become warmer than it should be. And that means also planting trees, more trees, because trees can capture back that carbon dioxide and imprison it. All those trees contain carbon dioxide, and they are constantly capturing it from the atmosphere to make actually good things for us. But then, even ourselves, we should also, here in Uganda, I don't know about the other countries, just a culture which our people here didn't know, the culture of growing rice in swamps. I don't know what swamps they use in Asia, but here, what they call swamps are actually tributaries of the River Nile. So when you grow rice in the swamp, you are committing a very big crime. And this is us, it's not the Europeans. This must stop. Now, I don't know how the scientists briefed you, Sudan, and the forest in Congo. Therefore, by interfering with the forest, interfering with the wetlands, we ourselves are destroying 40% of the rainfall of this area. So the countries of the group, as if they are mad. This is water. God is the one who said this is water. This is in the book of Genesis. You go and read the book of Genesis, even if you are not Christians. From the beginning, God said, He created the world, and then He said, let water separate from the land. And some parts were water, some parts were land. Now somebody comes and says, God was wrong. What he made water, I will make a garden of rice and mayuni and all that takataka. This is terrible. So, and these scientists, I don't know whether they have briefed you, the Ugandan scientists, they were able to show me that 40% of the rain Uganda get, some parts of Uganda get, is from local water bodies. And they showed me that here where we are, near the Entebbe airport, is where the equator passes. Where you landed at the airport, that's where the equator passes. So you go on going north. By the time you get to places like West Nile, in the northwest, Acholi, some parts of Acholi and West Nile, they get almost 2 times. They get 60 inches of rain. Why? Because of the swamps in South Sudan and the forest in Congo. They are the same latitude, Karamoja and West Nile. The wetlands must be vacated. The river banks, I want to congratulate our Tanzanian brothers. I was recently in Arusha for our meeting there. They have done a good job in Arusha town. Those streams there, they are all protected with plants, there are forests in Arusha town, although the other area is dry, but irresponsible. So, while we in Uganda are quarreling with the Europeans for the greenhouse gases, but we must solve our own problem, which we can solve ourselves, which is interfering with the rain cycle of our wetlands and water bodies, which contribute to our rain, our own rain, not the rain of anybody else. As I conclude your opening, but I'm saying you should stay here. Although we have closed, you stay around and enjoy yourselves. I thank you all, and I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, there is just one request. After the anthems, we'll have some photos taken, and I will guide when that happens. I would like now to take the pleasure of requesting that we all be upstanding for the anthems. Thank you very much, Police Brass Band. Your Excellency, as we organize the parties, protocol, please organize the parties for the photos. We are requesting, Your Excellencies, the ministers and the heads of delegation. That's the first photo. Protocol, you could guide them to where the photo is going to happen. And then the next photo will be the UN agencies, our development partners that are here present, who will be then taking a photo with the Excellency, the Presidents. So may I request protocol to manage our first set of photos, which is the ministers and heads of delegation only, please. Of course, this will include the UN IOM, which is the UN Migration, as hosts. Then the next set, and this is also to request the UN agencies, led here by the UN Resident Coordinator and the other heads of the UN agencies. That will be the second photo that will include members of IGAD and also the IOM. That's the second set. So the first set of pictures, the presidents will take a photo with the ministers, permanent secretaries present here, and the